the deck too. So without further ado, let's kick off. So we're going to talk today about boosting your content marketing and looking at tactics that aren't just write a blog. And the truth is that we're going to be looking at blogs and forms of blogging and content marketing within this webinar, but we're taking it one step further. It's going to be a bit deeper than that perhaps quite reactive way of working in which we produce content because we feel we have to, rather than producing content that we believe is is quality content and it's actually going to serve us a purpose and ultimately generate a result for us. So who are we? Well, my name is Dan Jenkins. For those of you who haven't met me before, I'm the head of client services at Wagada Digital. We are a digital marketing agency with offices in both St Albans and St Albans in Hertfordshire and Cheltenham in the west of England. That's our west of England office. And we pride ourselves on successfully delivering online visibility for ambitious clients. And beyond that, that visibility turns into tangible gains, tangible results, and ultimately a strong return on investment from marketing activity. And as I say, it's not all about me. We've got a team now of around 20 or just shy of 20 spread across our two offices with two core teams. My team, which looks after client services. So we strategize. We are that first point of contact. We're that port of call for all our clients. And then we've got a strong digital delivery team headed up by my colleague Dee, which looks after the execution of tactics across search engine optimization, paid and organic social media, Google ads, email marketing, to name just a few. And we've also got a recently launched digital transformation department. We're HubSpot partners, so we build websites within HubSpot and look after HubSpot transformations and migrations, which is all about sales and marketing alignment and customer relationship management. So all very technical terms, but that's it in a nutshell. So why produce content? Well, I pulled off this lovely quote, which is that the top 3 goals that marketers achieve through successful content marketing are generating brand awareness, building credibility and trust, and educating audiences. So if we just ponder on that a moment, what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about top and mid funnel, aren't we? So the content marketing approach as a business is not to look at it from a place of going, I produce this piece of content, I'm going to expect this level of sales, I'm going to do this on social media or this on my website or this in an email marketing campaign, and it's going to directly achieve for me X amount of return on marketing spend. However, these goals should all feed into a significant return on advertising spend in the long run, okay? So brand awareness, credibility and trust, and education, those things don't happen overnight. So the work that you're putting into your content marketing now, you'll be reaping the rewards of it in the longer term. And it's also fundamentally important from an SEO perspective, because I'm going to share something with you now that kind of is quite simple to understand, should be. But it's fundamental. Google regularly does algorithm updates. It regularly looks at how it crawls content. And quite an important update over the last few years is the EAT update, EAT. And what does it stand for? Well, it stands for expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And what that means is that Google is fundamentally looking at those areas of how your business is positioned online in order to give value to your content, to give value to your brand and your online marketing activity, and ultimately reward you for it. Now, that is really, really important, because what it means is it takes the mind away slightly from keywords. So for years, we're keyword focused. Yes, keywords play into this, and I'm going to come on to that a little bit. But where I'm going with this is that if you naturally create high quality content, white papers, insights, blogs and magazine type articles, key information pages on your website. So that's what we're focusing on now, a little bit more than kind of perhaps service pages and product pages and the real sales driven pages. If you approach it from a mindset of going, within this content, am I demonstrating a high level of expertise, a high level of authority, and a high level of trust or trustworthiness, that is all going to stand you in particularly good stead with regards to how Google perceives your website. So as we work through some of the stuff within this webinar, I just want us to consider these 3 elements and go expertise, authoritativeness, and trust, because it all feeds into that slightly more holistic picture and the slightly more holistic approach towards SEO. So what I'm going to do now is talk you through some content marketing trends that are very up to date. They're very 2022 because we really need to be starting to consider these. And I'm having conversations with clients at the moment about how we are slightly reworking kind of content marketing, and we're looking at some of these key areas. Number one is the rise of video content. Now, the rise of video content is huge. And in the last few months, Google has even started to look more at video on key landing pages as a ranking factor. Okay, so it's a ranking signal. So it's, do we have high quality video in the right place on our website, targeting the right information. Now, that's not to say that you're going to directly upload video content to your website. You're going to want to upload it to a platform such as YouTube and then embed that within your website so that it doesn't slow your website down. And when you're uploading to YouTube, you might want to consider your keywords there in terms of the title of the video and some of the supporting content. But are we considering video content within our content marketing plan? I mean, if we needed convincing, we can just see that, you know, the average hours of online video watched per week per person, this is from a state of video survey from this year, has risen exponentially. I mean, that's what, almost 100% increase from 2018 to 2022. It's kind of not surprising. You know, it's grown exponentially year on year. The other thing to consider is that it's particularly relating to short form video. So our habits more and more now are to watch short form video. What do I mean by that? A minute, you know, a minute and a half. It's about how platforms like TikTok, and perhaps a bit more now with kind of Instagram and Instagram Reels, are really developing a mindset or a culture in which we are particularly used to scrolling through, to remaining very heavily within the feed, so that you are literally hooked. And we need to consider that within our landing pages as well. Are we producing content whereby perhaps we've got a 750 or 1,000 word article, but are we reinforcing that with a strong, solid piece of video content as well, that might reinforce the message and might get our message across, but in a slightly more visual way. Another important trend, which we're seeing massively actually at the moment, and it's really, really important, is the rise of ESG and social responsibility. So environmental, social governance, and kind of, you know, corporate social responsibility has rolled off the tongue for a very, very long time, but it's going that one step further. So it's almost not even just about, you know, look, our team did a charity bike ride and we raised £750. And whilst that might be a good thing, it's more about how you are socially conscious and socially aware as a brand, and that you are showcasing to your target market how you are socially conscious throughout your content marketing. Okay. So perhaps, you know, you've gone completely paperless, or you're using recycled product for all your packaging, or you are partnering with a third sector organization and you're in the service industry, and you're offering gratis work perhaps to within that sector. You know, think of all those things and go, are we really effectively communicating that? So first of all, are we effectively doing it? You know, it's really important in 2022. We're far more socially aware. There's a younger generation of consumer, not just millennials, but also that Generation Z that's coming in younger than that, that perhaps cares even more at this point in time in their lives than some earlier generations did at that point in their lives. A bit of a generalization, but it's because of the availability of the access to content actually that is making people so kind of socially aware that we really need to consider as a brand, are we lining up with what our customer expects? Marketers are recognizing this. So we're seeing that 82% of marketers are either investing in the same or increasing their investment in social responsibility in 2022. So it's still a fundamental part of the marketing plan. It doesn't just come under kind of, I don't know, HR or operations in terms of, or, you know, your senior leadership team in terms of decisions that the business is making for social responsibility. It's the responsibility of the marketing department to put a bit of pressure internally as well to make sure that these things are happening, and to then communicate that effectively to your target market. Podcasts and virtual events are really important. Like I'm doing with you now, you know, this type of content and advertising this content as such through your blog and through key landing pages is a hugely valuable way to deliver content to your target demographic. You might be doing this sort of thing already. If you are, brilliant. Are you communicating it as well as you can? Are you setting up all your events on LinkedIn? Are you linking that to the core landing pages on your website? This all links in with you as a brand as well, showing that kind of education, authority, and trust. Think back to all those key signals that we spoke about. Podcasts, audio, and visual gives you, and live events gives you that massive opportunity to showcase all of those things through your website. It's content marketing, but it's not just reliant on that reactive how-to content that is 500 words and that you just pump out every couple of weeks because you feel you need to. And again, I said I wouldn't really talk about keywords, but this is just a nice little visual from another webinar presentation. So I'm just going to let somebody else in. Welcome. As I say, if anybody's joined late, you will get the recording afterwards as well. Yeah, so this is quite nice because it's a consideration of the funnel, but rather than looking at that classic funnel of awareness, interest, desire, we're looking at the type of content, the type of keywords. So informational, transactional, and navigational. So informational is when a user is looking for that information. And again, your content marketing will feed very heavily into that. Transactional is when they're looking to actually make a purchase, you know, make a sale, make an active transaction. So those are your core product or service landing pages. And the navigational pages are part of the user journey, which I'm going to talk to you about in a moment. But podcasts and virtual events can fall really, really heavily into that informational section. They're that really strong kind of education piece, and it just sits very, very nicely in terms of that intent. Infographics. There's actually this deck that I've put together is intentionally ironic because throughout it, what I've done as well is I've pulled really useful insight from think tanks, pieces of research, reports, and I'm sharing them with you because they are facilitating me conveying the message. So those brands that are within my industry that have developed infographics for me, or the target market with which I am included, are seeing the benefit because I'm utilizing that content. Again, this all links to the theme of being more visual. Infographics are massive now. So if you're a B2B brand, if you're in the cyberspace, if you do software as a service, for example, or if you do content that is perhaps slightly more complex and you want to humanize it for your target market, are you really maximizing the use of visuals within your content? Graphs, bar charts, percentages, little roadmaps, ways of showing to your demographic rather than just telling. I went to a big cyber symposium, a big event at the University of Gloucestershire about a week or two ago. And it was interesting actually because one of the student groups there had just done a project in which the whole fundamental part of it was them developing large-scale infographics on cyber threats, cyber security, blockchain, really techie stuff. And all through the atrium were these quite enormous sort of infographics. And what was really interesting was the people were there, people were visiting this cyber symposium, they were photographing them. I was speaking with somebody that wanted to take it back for their team because it was humanizing the whole thing. And it's so fundamentally important now, especially as we have the rise of more complex technology, more complex solutions, perhaps. You know that industry and you know the technicalities of that industry. Does your target market really understand it? And that's just a simple question. And sometimes the answer might be, well, do you know what, Dan? My target market know their problem, they know their challenge, they know they need a solution, but maybe they don't fully understand it or understand exactly what we do. And they just want us to solve the problem. So from a content marketing perspective, the information piece surrounding visuals, infographics, videos, that whole content marketing picture is going to be of so much value to you because it'll enable your target audience to really understand what it is that you do, why you do it, and kind of how you solve their problem. Another consideration and a trend, and also something to think about, is emotive headlines. And by that, I don't mean clickbait. I don't say cheapen. I don't mean cheapen your content. I see it a lot now from print. So think about kind of, I don't know, red top newspapers or even sports publications and entities that used to make a lot of money from print distribution, as they've moved more and more into the online space, they make a huge amount of their revenue from banner advertising. So if somebody visits the landing page, they engage with an ad, they just see an ad, you know, they're getting a revenue stream. So you're seeing more and more now this quite aggressive, quite clickbaity article content. You know, you wouldn't believe what Princess Anne said in the build up to the Jubilee or whatever, and then when you click on it, it might be that, you know, it's absolutely nothing, but it's just encouraging that click through and that kind of clickbait piece. But you can split the difference, and what I mean by that is that, you know, this is more a visual to kind of represent it, so I appreciate it's going to be quite small on the screen, but you'll see it again in the deck. This is a lovely visual from CoSchedule that I'm sharing with you, which has got those kind of power words for emotive and kind of emotional headlines. And the interesting thing is that there's nothing new in marketing in terms of evoking an emotional response. You know, when you watch an advert on the television or you see a really strong piece of content on social media, especially if you're a consumer, it's often designed to evoke an emotional response. Not always a negative one. It could be one of happiness. It could be one of relief. It could be one of satisfaction. But the point is there's some lovely concepts of making sure that your headlines and your content are... I've had a lovely private question, so what I'm going to do is open it up to the room, if that's okay, and engage with it. And engage with it publicly here. So, you know, are we considering that we're actually driving that emotive response from the target demographic within our headlines? So, for example, there's some lovely examples here. They're just quite strong words: outstanding, energy, unparalleled, fascinating, luxury. You know, these are astonishing. These are all quite emotive, sort of, and quite driven words. So I had a great question: how does this fit in? How do these work alongside SEO? So the thing to really consider here is that these kind of words, these sort of emotive language, might not necessarily be target keywords for your SEO, but you might want to talk upon a theme, such as, okay, let's just do it based on the theme that I'm talking to you about here: content marketing. Maybe you're a digital entity and you want to do a piece of content surrounding that. You know, maybe your article will be 10 strong and unusual tactics to excel your content marketing in 2022. Now, I'm focusing there on content marketing or content marketing in 2022, but I'm using that emotive language to support it. It's longer tail, but also if users are then seeing that content online, it's going to encourage click-through. It's going to attract more attention on your social media feeds when you're publishing your content. So the two work hand in hand. So the emotive and these kind of power words are slightly less about content marketing visibility and the keyword as a search term, far more about driving engagement and really kind of enticing the target market to click on your article over perhaps the other 3 or 4 as well that might land on their search page. I hope that's answered your question. Feel free to drop me a message if it hasn't, and I can take it one step further, but I think that's useful for everybody on the webinar as well. So let's talk a little bit then. Bearing some of these trends in mind and what we need to be thinking about, let's look at how we can take a more strategic approach to content marketing, because ultimately it is more than just a blog. This is a nice visual from Venngage. Again, this is a piece of content marketing. It's an infographic, effectively, but it's looking at some of the more popular forms of marketing content. So we've got blog posts, and we'll come on to the length of blog posts in a minute. You can see the reference here that says ideally more than 1,500 words. I guarantee that many of you, well, if you are, that's fantastic, but many of you might not yet be producing high volumes of content at plus 1,500 words, but that's really where we need to be thinking. Webinars, user-generated content. So that is actually kind of getting content from your target demographic and utilizing that. It's highly trusted, and coming back to that EAT that we were talking about earlier, user-generated content feeds in massively to the trust piece. It's really important for that. It really helps because users are naturally, sorry, I'm just admitting somebody, apologies if you've joined late, welcome, you will get the recording. So you will have the full deck and the recording as well. Yeah, so users are naturally going to trust. I've got a great phrase called word of mouth rather than word of mouth. The team wind me up for using it, but I love it. It's word of mouth. It basically means online word of mouth, you know, referral, rather than that doing the same purpose as that classic word of mouth at the school gate or at the coffee shop counter or whatever. So you're going to trust it. Social media posts, you know, video, white papers. So we're going to be referencing that a little bit, you know, downloadable guides, PDFs, content and articles that go a bit further than what you might want to put on a landing page. You might even want to put it behind a gateway for like an email address. So you generate a lead magnet. Podcasts, the rise of podcasts is significant. I'd suggest that it's been a significant rise actually over the last few years, and potentially that rise could continue. And I think you potentially, even as a business, still a relatively early adopter in that space, because I think there's so much further that we can go there. And of course, statistical infographics, those lovely visuals. But the interesting thing as well to consider is that with all of this content marketing that you see there, come away a little bit from that classic funnel. So we talked a bit about informational. There's an argument that a lot of these are going to come under that informational piece. You're educating your audience. Now, the user, your target market, are not necessarily going to go from one to the other, to the other, to the other in a classic funnel. They're going to go through them all. And there's a lovely quote here from Nicole Martin, the MD of Pace, which is that this is about conversion storytelling. I want you to really think about telling a story as a brand. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, it's a measured and tactical way to target and move customers through their entire journey using insights-driven, impactful storytelling. It focuses on quality over quantity for content. Now, this is so important. So I would now argue that in 2022, you'd be much better placed producing one really juicy, really high quality 2,000-word article or piece of content than 400 500-word blogs that you're pumping out every week. And the aim is to better connect your audience and drive them to that action, regardless of where they are in their journey. So they'll be coming in at this content in different phases. They might already be a customer. They might be a new customer. But the typical customer journey is no longer linear. And that's because we're able to access so much more content now, okay? And conversion storytelling should be used to better shape the full customer journey and in turn, better connect audiences to the brand. So the word that keeps coming through there is connect. And so I'm going to talk a bit about how we do that. And we can do that through something called content clusters and pillar content. And they can really help your content strategy. I think for me, if there's two things that you can take away from today, that if you took away nothing else, take away these things. That's a lie, there's three. ESG, that's really important. This is really important. Let's talk about it. So a topic cluster is when you have a single page with a key theme. So you want to think of that as your pillar page. That's the main core topic or the main message. All of your marketing collateral that are then related to that topic then link back to that pillar page, and the key pillar page links out to each asset in return. I've got a visual in a minute, which is going to explain this, because I appreciate it's quite technical. I also had a video, but I've been having a couple of difficulty, so bear with me. But what it means is that you focus in on that theme, and then you develop a really strong piece of content on that theme. It could be 2,500 words. That theme will then effectively have a number of strands, a number of focus areas. And the point is, within that lovely 2,000 per word piece of content, you're going to link out to those kind of sub articles, those sub pieces of content. So literally think of it as something like a spider's body. So you've got that main organism, the core, you know, the anatomy, at the heart of the anatomy. That's your content that you're really proud of and you really hope it's going to rank. Or maybe you've already developed a piece of content and guess what? It ranked. And then you're going to look back and go, this is now going to be my pillar content on this theme. And then you build everything else around that, the spider's legs that kind of lead out. So HubSpot, as an example, have a content plan whereby all of their content is fundamentally based around content clusters. So this is literally the visual explaining what I've just talked you through. So at the heart of it here is that key page, that key piece of content on a theme. So maybe for HubSpot, one theme is on customer engagement, maybe another one is on um, sales and marketing alignment. I'm speaking broadly here, but then the point is that off that you find all the nuances, all the bits of content that are related to it, and you build all that supporting content. What that means is that if you look on this visual, you've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 per theme. Okay, so if you do your maths, times 8 by 5, like 40, you've got that volume of blog articles. If you're doing 2 a month, let's say, it's about 3 years worth of content there, right? So what you're looking at on that visual is 3 years worth of content, but rather than it just being that reactionary, we do a blog, or we'll do one on this, we'll do one on this, you're pooling it together into these core themes and you're feeding it back to that pillar page. So just let that sit a minute, because what you'll realize there as well is that it's not creating more work, it's actually simplifying your process, and it's going to harness you potentially much better ranking opportunity, much better visibility opportunity, because this heavily comes back to SEO now, but also it focuses in your marketing and content marketing plan. So I hope that's helpful, that visual. And as I say, you've got a little 1-minute video that you can engage with on the deck when you get that through. So we've sort of referenced this, but how long should my content be? And this may surprise you, but really you want to be thinking big. So for your pillar content, for that really juicy stuff, you want to be thinking, I mean, I think I'm being kind by saying a minimum 1,000 words. A lot of organizations would say 2,000. You saw that infographic, it said 1.5. There's no hard and fast rule for this, because anything above 300 words has the potential to be ranked by Google. So if Google crawls a piece of content, it expects a minimum of 500 words for it to be ranked. Anything below 300 words, it's not really going to be crawled effectively. So for pillar content, for the really juicy content, you want to be looking at a minimum of 1,000 to even as much as 5,000 words. So within that, that's not just going to be 5,000 words of body copy like an old school essay or an assignment. You want that to be broken up with H2s, with bullet points, with visuals. But we're talking about really chunky, really, really valuable content. And as a minimum, we want to be thinking of around 1,000 words minimum. Really, though, you could go more, but that's just to put it as a ballpark figure for you. And if you think about a standard font, like, I don't know, Times New Roman in a decent font size, like 11 or 12, I think you're looking about 500 words a page. So it's a couple of sides of A4 minimum. That's where you want to be pitching that. And for any of your supporting content or your ongoing blogs that come in between, you want to be looking at an absolute minimum of 500. Now, again, 300 is the absolute minimum for crawlability, but I would never really sign off on a blog that's less than 500 words. You ideally want to be looking at that as your minimum for best practice and to stand the best chance of ranking. So let's talk a little bit about keyword research. Why? Because I said we weren't really going to focus in on that. Of course, keywords play a part in this. Keywords are part of how, what Google's looking for and how it's going to rank your content. But let's look at it from a slightly different approach. Rather than just going keyword, 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 let's look at how we can use some insight to decide what keyword areas and themes we are going to target for our content marketing. Let's do it back by insight. So what about if you went into something like Google Analytics, or maybe you've got a search tool on your website? So this is a nice infographic again from Vengage. This in itself, another piece of content marketing. But you could look at the most searched keywords for your brand, for your company, and start to build out your content plan based upon that. So in this example, jeans, jackets, shirts, accessories, shoes. Now, these are very broad keywords, aren't they? Shoes. I mean, that's so all-encompassing, right? But in this diagram, we're taking the assumption, and based on the blue for men and the pink for women, which is very general, but we're taking the assumption that the highest level of search, so the highest level of need or engagement is for women's shoes, followed closely by men's shirts, men's jackets, right? So we've got that insight, or maybe you even know that those are the most successful businesses of elements of your business. You don't have to pay £1,000 a year on a fancy keyword tool to literally go into Google and start to type which shoes, like that question-based search, that informational-based search. And what do we see? We see all these related searches. Google's doing the work for you. It's saying, look, this is what people are looking at. Which shoes are best for plantar fasciitis? What a great piece of content. Which shoes add the most height? Which shoes are best for running? Which shoes are best for walking? Already, you can look at some of these related searches and get a feel for the content cluster. So you could be looking at a content cluster surrounding footwear and health. So you might have a piece of pillar content surrounding how to maintain good foot health with your footwear or whatever. And I appreciate I'm just shouting this out off the top of my head. But then the point is that could be your pillar page. And maybe you're going to do a content cluster with which shoes are best for plantar fasciitis, which I know is a nightmare because I've had it in my life. It's a chronic policeman's heel is the nickname for it. Which shoes are best for running, which shoes are best for walking, which shoes are best for standing all day. All of that stuff comes into it. So maybe you're going to do an article surrounding the best shoes for standing all day, and maybe that's going to feed into your pillar content surrounding good foot health through your choice of footwear. So already we see where we're going with this. Let's take that a bit further. Let's go a bit longer tail. What men's shoes? What men's shoes are in fashion? What men's shoes make you taller? What men's shoes to wear with chinos? So maybe you got an article, the top men's fashion tips for footwear in 2022. And then you've got clusters coming off that surrounding what to wear with jeans, what to wear with chinos, what to wear to a wedding, and maybe and already you can see how simply we're actually approaching those content clusters rather than just getting that reactionary thing, oh, we haven't done a blog for 6 weeks, what we write about, let's write about this. This is really thinking about what does my target market want, what do they engage with, what are they searching for, and how can I best develop a content plan that suits their needs. Again, what women's shoes? What women's shoes are business casual? Not sure what the trends are surrounding the red soles, actually. Maybe somebody will highlight that to me, but it's just interesting. I've seen a few of those, and I hadn't really thought about it until now. I literally did this search last week for the sake of giving you the visuals and to articulate. But it'd be interesting to see what that's backed by. But what to wear with jeans, again, what women's shoes are in style. So you can take some of these things, and then what you can do is start to search for these phrases yourself and start to do some competitor analysis. So look at what is actually ranking, because often it won't even be an article that's got that exact search term. So I think I typed something in like, men's, what men's shoes are in fashion or something like that based on these search. And one of the top, this was a great article from a website, Ape to Gentleman, and it was juicy, long, 2,000 words, linked through to loads of different stuff. And this is what was ranking. And so the actual article title is the biggest men's shoe trends for 2022. But obviously Google's looking at the intent behind the article, what you want from the article. Louis Vuitton shoes have very iconic red soles. Brilliant. All that. So there we go. So that's an interesting thing, and I must admit I didn't know that. I was talking to a colleague about premium brands last week, and I actually didn't know that that was fundamental to Louis Vuitton. So that's really interesting. And what you've got there is people that are perhaps looking for alternatives, or maybe they want the Louis Vuitton-esque look, but without paying the Louis Vuitton-esque price. So it's so interesting because it gives you that insight from your target demographic. So there we go. And now let's talk a little bit about another tool that you can access for free from a marketer, a chap called Neil Patel. This is called Uber Suggest. I shout this one out a bit just because I like to give a little free tools here and there when you can. But this is a nice kind of keyword tool where you can pump in keywords and you'll see the related language and the related kind of keywords surrounding that. But as I say, the approach I really want us to think about is less keyword for the sake of the keyword, and I really want us to think about the themes. To give you an idea very quickly before I go into some working examples, no, in fact, I'm going to go into it in the working examples. And another tool that's good for that is Answer the Public. I shout about this tool quite a bit, but this is a great tool for question-based searching. What I thought was really interesting when I shared this free tool with you is that when I then used it, when I typed in as an example, software as a service as the kind of the keyword for related keywords, I basically get hit with their content marketing campaign. So I love that, and I wanted to just share that with you. Is that little pop-up, how to use Search Insight, a beginner's email course, sign up for your first lesson now. So that's their piece of content marketing, hitting you in the right place at the right time. But then, yeah, what this tool gives you is some really useful related language and related keywords, and particularly surrounding question-based search. So I'm going to share with you now some working examples, which are really exciting because these are first-hand. These are not big case studies from just like, random brands. This is what the team and I have worked on and that has harnessed genuine success, or we anticipate will. So a really exciting example is a brand we've been working with recently called Raw Vision. I don't know if you've heard about outsider art. It's a really, really exciting movement surrounding sort of untrained raw artists, and it's a growing movement in the US particularly, but also on a global scale. And we've just built a marketing strategy for them. They do a magazine subscription on surrounding outsider art. They're one of the world's leading kind of magazine subscriptions in this area. And what was really interesting within the strategy was that we identified that search had grown quite significantly over the last few years for outsider art. So if you look at this graphic on the right, you can see the growth of search there to now a place where it's averaging just under 6,000 monthly searches for the keyword outsider art. Okay, so when people are searching surrounding outsider art, just that keyword, that real top of the funnel, but that they're in, they know that they want to find out about it, or they know about it. The search volume is there. Beyond that, Raw Vision are ranking in 3rd place for that keyword. So we were able to identify that that brand was in position 3 when somebody searches outsider art in the US. Fantastic. This is the landing page. So the landing page is a juicy piece of content. It's quite long. Just showing you the top here, surrounding what is outsider art. Now, it's about 2,000. I mean, I don't quote me on this. It was quite a large word count. Apologies, I'm just letting somebody back in. Rest assured, you will get the full recording. Yeah, so this is the landing page. Juicy content. However, you've got 6,000 monthly searches and potentially a large volume of traffic coming through to this landing page. And the question is, from a content marketing perspective, did we feel that the brand was maximizing this landing page? Because actually, the overarching goal for the brand is to drive an increase in sales, an increase in subscriptions. Sorry, I'm trying to move through the deck. This is our recommendation. If there was one thing we said to the brand that you can take from this strategy, let's implement this as good as overnight. Let's get at the top of that landing page another piece of content marketing, a free download of Raw Vision's 100th edition magazine, which had passed, as a form of lead magnet. So we've got potentially hundreds, maybe even in the thousands of people landing on this landing page every month. And maybe they're getting their information, but are they going anywhere? The brand also believes that through email marketing, there's a really positive opportunity to entice the customer. So the customer that downloads that free download, they might not convert for 6 months or a year, but that one tactic could have an enormous difference in a year's time. So this is just an example now of how you take that juicy pillar content and you look at what's coming off that as further content in order to generate the end goal. Viva, which is a really exciting brand, which I'm excited to present, and they're actually on this webinar, and I'm delighted to be able to share a couple of bits of insight from it, because it's a really exciting strategy actually. Our holidays, Viva Holidays, they do multi-center breaks, international. And there's been a heavy focus on content marketing over the past few months in particular, and surrounding kind of very heavy destination focused content. And it's strong, juicy, quality content that is surrounding specific destinations. So in these, I've taken a bit of a screenshot here, but check out the blog. It's got how to island hop in Hawaii, Maldives foods, Maldives honeymoon guide, things to do in Italy. And there's some really lovely focuses on key areas, but the content is quality content. And it's not keyword stuffed. Yes, of course, it's utilizing keywords, and yes, keyword backed insight. But the point is, it's educational and it's authoritative. It's neatly structured. It's got lovely subheadings and visuals and social media embeds. Okay. And as part of the wider marketing plan for the brand, what is that leading to? Well, it's led to exponential growth. So we've seen a 458% increase in traffic in Q2 2022 versus Q1 2021. So year on year, we're up 450 odd percent. And you might look at that and go, ah, yeah, but you know, pandemic and all those other factors. But no, because the growth has also come throughout the year and is heavily backed upon the success of the online content across the site as we focused on key destinations. And we've seen an increase in traffic significantly, even on the first quarter. And what it looks like in growth visually is extraordinary. And it's really, really exciting. And it comes from not from a heavy keyword focus, but from a heavy content marketing focus and a really structured approach to content. Finally, a nice little example for you on visual marketing for another brand of ours. This is actually a brand that we won best low budget campaign on, actually, at the National Search Awards last year, is surrounding video marketing. So Entertainment Effects do large scale events, kind of special effects. Think pyrotechnics, think FA Cup final, think that kind of world, Guinness Premiership, Aviva Premiership, that whole world. And what's interesting is through highly optimized video content, when you do video searches now for key products such as a flame machine or a water fountain display, especially if you're in that research phase, what you're getting very, very heavily is on the Google landing pages are the video content for that brand. So it comes back to what I was talking about earlier, to not to simply think about your content marketing as the copy and keyword based content. It's about the videos that you are optimizing and also embedding within your website. So in this example, you can see that it's actually the Entertainment Effects website as well. So as you go on a video search, at the very top on water fountain display on the right hand side, you can see that what you're seeing is the best water shows around the world page from Entertainment Effects and the embedded video in that area, but it's the Entertainment Effects landing page that is actually getting the traffic. And with all of this in mind, what the longer term aim then is that obviously with all of this content that ranks, that becomes more visible, you're going to attract links through that. So you build a quality content, it naturally ranks and you attract links. I was working on a brand that, and we did an article on anxiety in sports. I haven't got visuals on it, but the impact of anxiety in sport. And it ranks very, very heavily for keywords like sports and anxiety or depression and sports and the phraseology that's surrounding that. And the amazing thing is it naturally generates backlinks and some quite high quality backlinks because entities and organizations are coming across the content and then they're linking to it from their content. And that all feeds into your overarching SEO plan and your overarching SEO success as well. So it's really important to bear in mind that with all of this guidance that I'm giving you in the long term, the link building plan is to then naturally obtain links, to naturally generate those backlinking opportunities rather than hunting them out, if that makes sense. So finally, the question to ask as well is, is it time to revisit and update your historic site content, blogs, pillar content, landing pages, white papers? And the answer is potentially yes. So whilst you might come away from this and move forward with the next steps, what you're going to do now, don't be afraid to look back. Don't be afraid to look at some content that's already on your website that might already be generating you some traffic or being successful for you, and that you might want to take a step further and start refining that content. Start changing it up a little bit, start adding, start linking, consider all the things that we've talked about. Is it a good piece of content that would now benefit from a video that you might even have, but isn't embedded on that landing page? So think through all the tactics that we've gone through today and consider, yes, what you can do moving forwards, but also what can you update retrospectively to elevate your website's content marketing. Fab. Oh, lovely bit of feedback from Carol. I'm so glad that you found it beneficial. What I'm going to do now is just draw your attention to our next webinar, which is surrounding smart objectives. It's going to be a good one. I'm going to open it up to questions as well in a moment, so don't worry, there will be the opportunity to ask questions. But due to reasons that were very much outside of our control. We needed to reschedule this quite recently, but we're really excited to do it on the 9th of August. We've already got a number of people booked in. Myself, my MD Nick, and our client relationship manager Jim are going to be jumping on a webinar on the Tuesday, the 9th of August, surrounding how to set smart business objectives and achieve them this year and next year. It's going to be a good one because we all know that we're in the midst of a potential do I say financial crisis? We know we're in quite an extreme financial situation. It's a great opportunity to make sure that your business and your marketing are completely aligned, that you're setting effective and achievable objectives for the year ahead. So if you're a marketer or a business leader and you're keen to find out a little bit more about how we would approach objectives and how we recommend that your business engages with objectives, get yourself booked on. It's another free one. And again, you'll have all the information in the follow-up. And I hope to see you there, but don't hesitate to get yourself a ticket. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the floor to any questions. You've got my details there as well. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm a big LinkedIner, so let's connect on LinkedIn. You've also got my Twitter handle there. And I've already had a question come through on the chat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to answer that question, and also I'm going to open it up to the room. So do feel free then to unmute and kind of jump in if you have any questions, or pop them in the chat. You can also message me privately, because that sometimes happens if businesses, I understand, don't want to talk about brand specific things publicly. That's fine. So Claire has asked, is it worth going through your old blogs and taking them down if they aren't fab, or should you just keep all old content on your website? It's a great question. There's no harm in taking down old content. What I would do though, sometimes I've worked with clients and they've gone, oh, I think we should take down XYZ blog because it's not really generating a huge amount of business for us, or something like that is the reason. But then when you look in analytics, it's actually generating perhaps a large amount of traffic. It's ranking well for a keyword that fits sort of within the business is offering. I'd be loath to too urgently start to kind of remove that kind of content. However, if you're looking back through old blogs and you go, this could be better, or this isn't positioning the brand right, or I could take this and dramatically improve it and I'm going to rewrite it, then absolutely don't hesitate to be quite aggressive on that. But on the flip side, that takeaway of look for the opportunity in previous blogs. So if you've got past blogs that you think could be better, rather than just go through them with a sort of a sledgehammer and take them down, consider if you need to refine or build the content on that exact article, bring it up to date, update it for 2022 maybe. So don't be afraid to work on your old content. But again, I would just take that on a case-by-case basis. Question, when you talk about video and the trend we just saw, what's your stand on GIF videos, how they are perceived and how they perform? GIFs can be effective, particularly for social media, but also on landing pages if they're snappy, but you might want them to be smart. You might want them to be clean. And some GIFs can be a little bit slapdash and a little bit fun. And maybe that works for your brand, but just have a little think about if you're using GIFs, is it appropriate for your brand message? And are you putting the right content in that GIF? More often than not on a landing page, I would suggest that a snappier, proper edited contained video within YouTube, top and tailed with your brand, is probably going to be more effective. But again, it would depend a little bit on the context, if that answers your question. So Claire would love to take a look at the holiday company. So that was Shebang actually for Viva Holidays. Check them out, Viva Holidays. Multi-center, multi-destination breaks. Do you Facebook post your posts? Great question. I've had a question come through privately. Do you know much about Facebook and the best way to get the most people to see your posts? So obviously the Facebook algorithm now is far more ruthless towards businesses. It favors people much more. So it's still a content community hub, but it is going to be much harder to get your content seen. A tactic that can be quite effective, try this for yourself across social media, I often recommend this, is to actually put your link in the comments of a post rather than the actual post. So if you're posting on LinkedIn or a social media platform, write a bit of copy, get a really enticing image in there, and then pop the link in the comments. So comment on your own post from your own brand with the link. It's because sometimes the algorithm can stifle the reach of content when the link is within the body of the post, because it sees it as a tactic that's going to take somebody away from Facebook or social media. And obviously what they want to do is keep people on it for obvious reasons. But a few quick things you can do. Get it on all your social media. Get it on your Instagram story saying new post, check out our website, new article with a lovely visual. Even add it to your social media grid on Instagram. On Instagram, you can't necessarily put the links there. So update, if you've got a really nice piece of content, update your company profile with the link through to that content. Have a mini push, drive through to that piece of content so that the web link is no longer your homepage for a week, but it's the content. Get it on your Facebook story, Facebook feed. Obviously, if you've got a really exciting piece of content or you've got something that started to generate traction and you actually think there's value in putting some budget behind it, you could then also run an ad that's more informational based, which would entice people to, and you could actually sponsor that post or get a bit of budget behind it to increase the reach. Those tactics can be effective, but obviously just solely posting is not going to get you the same results that it would have done 10 years ago, if that makes sense. But yeah, that classic thing of consider all those touch points from social media and how I can maximize the content. There's been some lovely feedback and lovely bits that have come through privately, so I really appreciate that. Obviously, it's important for us that we pitch these at the right level for the right audience as well. So I'm really glad that you find it beneficial. Don't hesitate to connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not already connected. And as I say, get yourself a ticket for the Smart Objectives webinar. And then by the end of the week, our autumn series is going to be live as well. So there's going to be a whole autumn series of events. Some of them are really exciting. So keep your eyes peeled, and I hope to meet with you again, if not in person, then online. But all the very best and have an amazing rest of the day. Thanks, everybody.